tell me everything you spot. My huge issue is the crosshair placement I'm working on.
Yeah.
But often it's also positioning and decision making. My huge problem is I get quite nervous during the game.
Yeah.
And struggle to keep my calm.
What happens when you practice everything in CSGO, but struggle to do it in-game? Well, today we're coaching a player that have the correct understanding of the game, but not execution. I will not hold you guys longer, grab your pen and paper and sit back. So we can just talk here a little bit about crosshair placement. When you have crosshair placement, you have to understand why you're looking at something, right?
Yes, usually like when your eyes... your eyes are your crosshair are your eyes, basically.
You always have to ask yourself, like, why are you looking where? Like right now, the crosshair placement is good right there. There could be a guy there, it makes sense. So this is fine crosshair placement. But then it kind of lacks you, because you aim like to the left here for no reason. The Glock is not that good like wallbang, shooting through walls. You want to be aiming more like where they can actually be, if that makes sense. And you can see this is like a pattern for the whole pistol round. Like, you swing this guy, but you aim at the box, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You would rather than, before you're swinging him, because you saw him jumping out, you want to be aiming to the right and then swinging out, if that makes sense. And this is very common. So here we can talk a little bit about the decision making. You know, after you fail the Molotov, which happens, everybody does that, you decide to peek here. When you make a decision to peek something, you have to understand what you're peeking. I'm gonna go one round back so we can go and get a better watch. I will show you. We will just skip fast. So, when you decide to peek here, you have to understand that you're very close to the wall. Which means your peek have to be very fast and fast and probably wide as well. Because otherwise a CT that's pushed down will be seeing your shoulder before you see them. So in this situation you want to be peeking wider for trying to this kill, and usually they're not there. I see the 1v3. Unlucky jump there, losing some HP. I can just quickly say that your decision there is maybe a little bit wrong.
Okay.
I'm gonna go a little bit back, we're just gonna quickly find it again. I will show you what I mean. The problem is that you know that your teammate died in boiler. That means that you should in your mind be thinking that one could be apps, and as you see there is one in apps. But instead of you going to the bridge with your gun out and just peeking it, it takes you 2 seconds. Just to peek it, you see what happened, you have a minute left. You decide to instead just run and jump. And you're lucky number one either whiffs you or you get a good timing. Just so you're aware next time. Always be aware of that. Because when you're making all of your decisions, you always have to like, no matter like what you see, you always have to remember it is primary information and it's secondary information. That will like affect your decision making. The primary is what you can see in the kill feed and what you yourself know what have happened with. So if you know that you had a teammate that died in boiler, then that's some decision you can like, that's some information. Secondary is what your teammate calls. So if one is calling pushing B, you should always take it to consideration. Oh.
Yeah.
What was your thinking there? Do you kind of tunnel visioned on the guy that ran away, or?
A common habit that I have. Yes, on the one hand I tunnel visioned, on the second hand I forgot to peek the corners.
Yeah, I see.
So I practice it, I still have it, but I just forget about it.
Yeah, it's very common to forget. It's very easy to tunnel vision. And I think this again comes, you know, to what you're used to, right? If you see the guy run away, you're usually used to that there shouldn't be more in banana. And then you kind of just tunnel vision, you walk up and, you know, something like that happens. I think the best way is to, of course, learn by demos like this, seeing there, and then always understand, like, when you peek out, where are you gonna get peeked from, right? Because when you swing out there, you have to worry about car, behind the wall, sandbags, and on the corner. That's like your 4 main positions you have to worry about. And then try to always understand that, like every time you peek at like a major spot like top banana. Always understand like what positions you have to worry about and when you have to worry about them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, maybe the when, the timing is still an issue.
The other thing you can talk about is the decision you made. Here you can see your teammate left you, so you're completely alone, which is very important you get this kill done. So I would give you then a hint, just like quick now, is that it's very good to know a lot of roles, but to like get to the next stage, you have to just pick a role. And that's very tough to do. For instance, me, before I started playing with my friends, I was an AWPer. And then I had one guy in the group who's a way better AWPer than me. I just gave it up. I was like, alright, that's fine. I can do entry or lurking instead. And I recommend at your level to get 2 roles. And get 2 very similar roles, if that makes sense. So don't get like entry fragger and lurker. That's 2 quite different roles. But you could go AWPing and entry fragging. AWPing and rifling, anchoring and stuff. And it just helps you, because if you're always having good games with the AWP, you should just then, you know, you should be an AWPer. It helps you, because then you can work on being a better AWPer, and this will help you win more games than trying to do all the type of roles in different games.
Definitely.
Alright, great smoke. So let's just say you heard somebody right now. You heard a guy running. Right. If you ask yourself right now, if he's running at you, where is he gonna come from?
From or enter-boiler.
Yes. And are you looking at any of those places?
No.
No. So then you have to, now you start turning. And now you start looking correct. And you sadly misses. We could probably, you want to look at position, and this is a prime example where the position might be lacking a little bit. A good position, that comes from a position where you can only be peeked from like the angles you want to be peeked from. So for instance, if you wanted to get a better position versus if he came running from like the right side, going under balcony would even be better, or going into apps and just holding there is better. Because when you position yourself in the middle here, you're open for so many positions like that the enemy can attack you from.
Yeah.
And that makes
That's
like,
a bit my problem. This is a bit my problem. I sometimes find myself, I'm so focused on one single point, like tunnel vision, and then I completely forget that it can be caught from all the angles.
Yeah, well, great thinking, great thinking. You had a reason, that's what I care about. So I always say that after you botch your weapons, you should give yourself 5 to 6 seconds to plan out the first start of the match for yourself. So, because you're playing pugs, you can do that. It's different if you play Team CS, but since you're playing pugs, I would always recommend then in the first like 5 or 6 seconds before the games, before the round start, you want to give yourself like your job to do in the start. If that is so, before you start, you can be right. I'm gonna go second mid. I'm gonna get apps control, and if they smoke me out, I'm gonna walk back out again and hold for a push. If they don't smoke me, I'm gonna try to take more control, try to get some info. If that makes sense. And always do that before every start of the round. And this might sound like a lot, but the more you play a map, the more you play your role, the more will you just automatically know what to do all the time. So as soon as you start getting more comfortable in whatever role you decide to play as, this will become way easier. Because when you have a role and your team says we want to go B and you're the entry fragger, you know that you have to go B now. Alright, what route do I take? If you're the lurker, your teammate is going B. Alright, now I have to go A. What route do I take? So it's much easier then. Yeah, I'm gonna just give you a hint there. As long as if you do it and you walk up quite close, I recommend at least throwing it faster or taking it out slower, if that makes sense. Because if you use a lot of time throwing that, a guy running to boiler could be killing you while you have a nade out. Just be careful of that. Deagling pistol on, I can respect it. Oh! Alright, good. Insane timing for you.
Yes, I was lucky for once.
You're holding the smoke, I like. You couldn't have known it was there. You couldn't have known. It happens. Like, buy with your team, so you will always have like the same economy. Great opening. Great 2 kills. Just keep on going. That's good. Oh! Unlucky timing. Unlucky timing there, pulling out your gun. But you win the round, so well done.
But there's some people, you know, and this is what I'm so amazed by, is in these situations, they know it. Sometimes I'm wondering, right? Also my boyfriend. All of a sudden, they don't go in there. Where other people would just go in there, and then they just wait, and then they continue walking. They have this right timing. And I want to develop this right timing. Yeah. Do you watch Pro CS at all? Do you watch some of it? Yes, I do.
So in Pro CS, you will always see these timings. Like they will always get the correct timing when the T is, as soon as he's like pulling out the bump. They get the correct timing, always like that. And that comes from a lot of stuff, but mainly it comes from just understanding, like you have to understand how the enemy think. In that position, the T there, he understood that 2 of his teammates died, and he heard that 1 of you are running down. He then have to pick a timing where he thinks it's correct, where he can get a one-on-one fight. And this is something you have to do at like every level, no matter if you're T side, CT side, if you're level 10, you're level 1, no matter what role you have. You have to understand and get to the mind of how your enemy think. And as soon as you start understanding that, this timing stuff will come much more easier to you. I can give you some hint on like developing it better. My first hint for you is to understand how the enemy plays. So when you see, for instance, 4 nades banana, you're gonna understand that you might see a push now. What can you do then? Alright, maybe you just fall away and you hold for like the pistol rush. So if you understand how the enemy execute this, it's much easier to counter it and like understand what you have to do. So that's like the first thing you should probably like try to learn, like try to understand that. Then the other is to understand what you excel at as a player. If you're very good at spraying and like taking one-on-one fights, then you know pushing into the banana rush might not be so bad as long as you do it carefully. But if you're a much slower player, holding an angle is better for you, then you should rather just retrieve in a round like that back to CT and just hold that and wait for them to push. And if you have those 2 understandings, then the rest usually comes by itself. Right. I would recommend the next time just play into your strengths there. If your strength is to go shorter rather than long, do that. Don't worry if your enemies, your teammates start, you know, screaming at you, then, you know, try to understand why, but just play how you want, because this is a low level. And if you have ways you can like completely like play your best and always get like a favorable fight, you should always do that.